Game week 9 is here, so it's time to lock in those FPL teams. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and after another positive game week, it's time to continue to progress our team towards victory. Let's get started. So guys, 40 points does not sound like a lot of FPL points, but given Game Week 8 was a disaster for so many people, I think I'm pretty happy with this one, particularly as it seems like it was the week of Salah. We speak about this a lot, whereby there seems to be one player each week which really elevates your FPL team, and unfortunately, sometimes it's Salah, sometimes it's Son, sometimes it is Palmer, sometimes it's Saka. You can't have them all every single game week, but unfortunately, despite the fact that I didn't have the main guys, Son, Salah, still managed to pull off quite a decent game week in the end. And that's due in part to Gvardiol with his goal. What an absolute legend. He has that in his locker, doesn't he? And it seems like the opinion is very quickly shifting on Gvardiol. A lot of people quite critical of him as an FPL asset a couple of weeks ago, but he seems to be coming good. A goal from Rodgers was very useful considering Saka was my auto sub off. Was I a bit lucky to get Rodgers off the bench? Well, yes and no. I would have preferred to have had Saka on the field, to be honest, so bad luck there. Good luck with Rodgers. I think it's cancelled each other out, but really does go to show how important it is to have that strong first sub in your FPL team. And Jamie Vardy with the penalty as well was a very, very welcome addition to my score in Game Week 8. So another green arrow, not the biggest of green arrows, but we survived the game week. Our team is still looking very strong with 2 free transfers and a wild card in hand. So where do we go next? Well, before I tell you that, make sure you do drop a like on the video. It is massively appreciated and really does help out the channel. Do subscribe if you want to follow along with my FPL moves week on week as well. Yeah, let's continue on. So as we approach the quarterway stage of the FPL season, I've got some decisions to make with those 2 free transfers and a little bit of money in the bank as well. So let's get going with the team that I have currently and then what I'm thinking of doing next. So first of all, in goal, we do still have Dean Henderson, which in fairness, I understand that he's not the best of goalkeepers, but I'm looking around at other goalkeepers, and is there anyone who is consistently providing points? Maybe 1 or 2 goalkeepers, but you know, there's no one really I would have a lot of confidence in at the moment. So in terms of just spending a little bit of money on a goalkeeper, 4.5 million, nice and cheap, to get you a few save points per week is better than nothing. I'm not expecting too much from him against Spurs, but maybe we can get some save points there as well, or maybe a miracle happens and he manages to keep a clean sheet. Crystal Palace are gradually moving towards mid-table for defensive numbers, and Henderson is making more saves than he is expected to. So he is obviously a top goalkeeper and in a decent form despite the lack of clean sheet. So I think there is still some potential here, but we have to hold up our hands and say, you know, it's not been all that with him, let's be honest. Let's go to defense, and we have got Trent Alexander-Arnold as my first defender. A lot of people quite critical of him last game week because he didn't really create very much, not very attacking, not his usual self. Wondering if that is a sign of future things to come. I think that was maybe due to the opposition more against Chelsea. Trent had more defensive responsibilities, but as we know with him, most game weeks, 90% of game weeks, he is very attacking, creative, on set pieces. That's always useful when you get a corner. That's going to be very useful for him, and also has that ability to score goals occasionally, maybe from free kicks, shots from range. We see that kind of thing from him, but it is Arsenal away up next, which is a bad fixture for our Liverpool players and for our Arsenal players, in fairness. So I'm sure a lot of people are worried, and maybe I should be doubly worried because I'm doubled up on the Liverpool defence with Robertson as well. Another player who is on some set pieces for Liverpool and does offer a little bit of attacking potential. Maybe not quite as much as Trent. But here's the thing about Liverpool. They have been the best defence so far this Premier League season, and both Trent and Robertson have a little bit of attacking ability. One concern with Robertson, though, is that I think he looks a little bit off it against Chelsea. So I wonder if Tsimikas may get some game time, well, more game time moving into future game weeks. It's definitely one to keep an eye on, but given that Liverpool are a top defence, you have to trust them a little bit, even in the tougher fixtures. And looking around the grounds for clean sheets at the moment, there's not too much going on. So in many ways, Liverpool may be one of the best hopes of clean sheets, even in the tougher fixtures. But we've got one more defender, and this is a guy we are far more confident in Game Week 9, and that is Josko Gvardiol. He plays against Southampton at home, and Man City have the best odds of clean sheets of any team in Game Week 9. Now, he was rested in the midweek Champions League game, which is very good, and also the fact that there is no Jeremy Doku at the moment could mean that Gvardiol pushes forward into that more advanced left wing-back position, which means not only is he going to be able to take his shots from range, but make more of those driving runs into the box where we really see the value from him. And we scored a couple of goals already this season, and I think he will score a few more, but what I'd like to see is some more assists, because looking at his creative numbers, they're actually not too bad. He's already created 6 chances for his teammates, 1 big chance, 0.98 expected assists so far this season, and yet no assists to show for it. So with a potential change in position moving forward over the next couple of game weeks, we might see a little bit more of that, particularly in these favourable fixtures against Southampton and Bournemouth, and maybe even after that as well. But we got to move into midfield, and we have got Saka still. It's a difficult situation for Saka because I don't know how to say this really. He's a very difficult player to own in FPL at the moment, and that is mostly due to Mikel Arteta, who is just very, very deceitful. Let's put it that way. Now, I don't blame him. He has got football as his primary focus. He doesn't care about us FPL managers, and why should he? But when you are an FPL manager, you hear Arteta saying that it's unlikely that Saka will play against Liverpool. I've seen other leaks from in the nose saying that Saka is in contention for the Liverpool game. What do we believe? Well, what we know is Saka was not in the squad in Game Week 8. He was not in the squad for the Champions League game in the midweek as well. So the information, the actual information we have is that Saka is maybe not at the peak of his fitness right now. I think that's all we can tell. So it's the case of, what do? Do you just hope that he's okay, or do you say, I don't want to play these games anymore? Arteta, I'm done with your games. There are many other great midfielders in FPL. I'm just going to switch to someone else. And I think there's definitely a strong argument for that because of the fixtures that Arsenal do have coming up. Liverpool, Newcastle away from home, which is a tough fixture. Away from home, Newcastle is tough. Chelsea away. Chelsea have been one of the stronger defences this season. Not that there's too much going on defensively this season. And Nottingham Forest, another very solid defence there. So over the next 4 game weeks, not only do we have some doubts over Saka's fitness in the immediate term, but these fixtures just are not good. And I think there are many other options we can go for. Palmer, Son, Foden, that can replace him. And we're going to be doing just that. I will reveal who my Saka replacement is before too long. And Mbeumo is my next pick in midfield. We got that Manchester United away fixture out of the way, which was a bit of a tough one. But Ipswich at home, completely different scenario. Ipswich, looking at the defensive numbers here, are sitting second bottom in the league. Only Southampton are putting up worse underlying defensive data. So that's going to be a really big opportunity for a guy in great form, scoring goals near enough every single game week, with the exception of, well, maybe Manchester United. And also, he's got a lot of creativity there as well. 2 expected assists this season, 16 key passes, 5 big chances created, and none of them have been converted. Maybe when Wissa is back, which very well could be this week, we might see Mbeumo being able to create for Wissa, and Wissa being a little bit more kind of clinical with his shooting. But we all know Mbeumo is a great pick. The next pick I have is Johnson in my midfield still. Disappointing blank last game week, and he did have a lot of chances. And even though all the headlines were about Son, I actually thought Johnson, when I watched the game, looked like the most dangerous man on the field. He was the guy getting most of the chances. It's just that Son is far more clinical than him, as we know. And Johnson, he is not the greatest finisher, but when you get enough chances, you will score goals. Disappointing to see him break his goal streak, but we've got some good fixtures coming up, so I'm sure he can get back to winning ways. And finally, Rodgers in my midfield, and I have to say, it might be time to just forget about benching Rodgers. I mean, he's just too good. He looks good in the Premier League. He looks good in the Champions League. He is nailed on every single game. Guys, this is his season. He has been an absolute legend in FPL terms because he started at that 5 million price tag. And going into this Bournemouth and Spurs fixture, No, they're not the best, but Aston Villa are a great attacking team. They will score goals against anyone, and Rodgers seems to be very much an involved guy. Let's move to the forward position. Haaland returning to form in the Champions League with 2 good goals there, and Southampton are the worst defence in the Premier League, the worst team in the Premier League. It's a home fixture. We're going to see a slightly different Man City setup this week, which I think will benefit Haaland. Hopefully Foden plays. Hopefully some of the other creative players will play, and I think no Doku benefits Haaland and will give him more opportunities to score goals. And I think another thing with Southampton, when we compare Southampton to maybe some other teams that Haaland has blanked against recently, a big thing is that these teams are experienced teams that are willing to adapt, willing to sit back, willing to shut Man City out, and even that doesn't always work for them. When we talk about a team like Southampton, less willing to change their ways, possession-based football, we know that is just spelling disaster for Haaland. So we might even have to talk about triple captaining him. I am going to touch on this in a few minutes' time. Next up, we've got Havertz in my team against Liverpool. So 2 Liverpool players, 2 Arsenal players facing against each other. It's pretty clear that this is an issue that I do need to address in my team. And thankfully, we do have the 2 free transfers in order to do that. But Havertz, in fairness, his numbers are good. They have been good this season. He gets a lot of chances to score. But if there's no Saka this game week, that actually could be bad news for him. And finally, Jamie Vardy, coming off the back of a penalty goal. The difficulty is with Vardy, his numbers are very poor. He is a guy who maybe takes 1 shot per game. And against Nottingham Forest, they're a team that don't concede too many chances anyway. He only needs 1 chance, or he only needs a penalty, and suddenly he is getting FPL points. But he's a really difficult player to own because it's very difficult to predict his results. Ipswich after that, do I want to hold him for that one? These are the big questions. But looking through all of my squad, Vardy is the guy putting up the worst numbers and who I am least convinced by as an FPL asset right now. He is cheap, so you have to give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit. But he is a player who could potentially be replaced as well. Now, on the bench, we have Valdemarson, bench 4 million goalkeeper. Smith Rowe, controversial benching, but when you do have a strong squad, you do have to bench someone. There is maybe an argument to say, can I just play Smith Rowe instead of Vardy? Can I just keep Saka and then, Smith Rowe is there off the bench if I need him? There's various arguments in various ways for sure, but Smith Rowe's numbers are really, really down over the last couple of game weeks. He's barely shooting, he's barely creating anything. So against Everton away from home, and Everton have improved defensively a little bit, I am a little bit worried about that one. After that, if I see a little bit more positivity from Smith Rowe, I do expect he'll come back into my starting 11 from game week 10 onwards. But he is definitely a player to keep an eye on at the moment because his numbers are down. He is looking worse and worse with each game week as an FPL asset, remember guys. Ben Johnson, injured, probably need to get an update on his injury status. You might even know it by the time this video comes out. And Harwood Bellis against Man City, he's going to be firmly last on the bench, but I don't think I'll need to rely on my bench defenders too much with my 3 premium defenders in my squad. But we need to make some transfers, we need to switch things up, and I will tell you what I've got right now. It is not locked in. 1 transfer is locked in, the second one is not, and I will discuss it more, I guess, tomorrow as I kind of make my final decisions there. But let's talk about transfers. Saka out and Palmer in. Very easy transfer because I do have that money in the bank, and it means that I don't have to worry about bringing Palmer in game week 12. I'm getting there ahead of time, and although I have said in the past that I don't think Palmer is a big game player, what I've always meant by that is I don't think Palmer necessarily performs at the same level against the best of the best defences. And I don't think Manchester United or Newcastle are that. I think they're both mid-table defences, really. And a home fixture against Newcastle, I think it is actually a very favourable fixture for any player at the moment. And you do expect Palmer can produce some of his magic. Set pieces and penalties are always very helpful as well. And just having that confidence of a player with a better fixture than Saka and guaranteed minutes compared to Saka, it is an improvement in my team. Is it maybe a bit luxury? Maybe, but this is a move that I'm going to have to make by game week 12 anyway, so I need to get Palmer in at some point. I got in there just before the price change as well, so I've got him at 10.8 million, which is nice. But of course, guys, we have the other transfer as well, and currently I'm thinking Havertz to Raul Jimenez, but I could also do Vardy to Raul Jimenez. I haven't decided what I'm going to do there yet. But basically, what I need is one of Vardy or Havertz to play both of the next 2 game weeks, and Raul Jimenez will be the other guy playing each of the next 2 game weeks, and probably beyond that as well, to be fair. Because Raul Jimenez, his form is just incredible. His numbers are better than any other cheap striker, and he's competing with some of the expensive strikers as well. 2.96 expected goals in, well, he's only had 5 starts. His creative numbers are decent as well, with 6 key passes, 19 shots, 18 in the box, 7 big chances. This is in reduced minutes compared to all of these other strikers as well. And the big thing that has maybe swayed me on Jimenez is the penalties. Andreas missed his last penalty, and Raul Jimenez has an incredible penalty record, even scoring one so far this season. So if Jimenez is on penalties moving forward as well, having these good fixtures all in all, and the cheap price tag, and the form, and the underlying numbers, it's everything I like in an FPL asset, and therefore I should be looking at him. Of course, some people would maybe prefer Wood. That is definitely an option for me as well, but right now I'm on Raul Jimenez. The only question is, who do I sell for him? Is it going to be Vardy? Is it going to be Havertz? It's so difficult to make that decision, and I keep changing my mind on it, to be honest, guys, and I don't think I will make that final decision until tomorrow, to be honest. But we do need to talk about captaincy as the final thing to talk about today, and it's going to be a case of Haaland captain. The only other player I would consider captaining is Mbeumo, which is why he'll be my vice captain, but realistically, come on, it's the Haaland show this game. We all know about that. And I'm even thinking about, going for a triple captain now. I was thinking previously I didn't want to. That was due in part to De Bruyne probably going to be out for this weekend, but if City have to change their system because of no Doku, that's going to benefit Haaland. We've seen Haaland score 2 goals in the midweek, so that's an improvement in form. I've looked at the odds and a lot of the data, and it does suggest that this opportunity for Haaland is just as good as the game week against Ipswich. What he produced in the midweek as well in the Champions League. Southampton are about the same as Sparta Prague, apparently, for how many goals City and Haaland were expected to score. So can we expect a brace in this game for him? I think it's definitely possible. And given that we're only going to see 2 double game weeks probably between now and the end of the season, we've got a mystery chip, we've got bench boost, we've got free hit. We need to play our triple captain somewhere as well. Like, where do you play all of there's not enough double game weeks for each, there's more chips than there are double game weeks. So we're going to have to use some of our chips outside of double game weeks. And therefore, best player in the Premier League in his best fixture. Best FPL asset in his best fixture in single game week terms. Is it a no-brainer? I don't know. Maybe not a no-brainer, but it's certainly something to think about. So currently I'm probably 25% likely to triple captain, 75% not going to triple captain, but I'll probably just do it on vibes on deadline stream, and we'll make that final decision as we do. But that's currently what I'm thinking now, but we have got more of a master plan as well in the works, where my team is going to continue to progress really nicely. I know some people find this stuff boring, but I think it's really important to look ahead with your FPL team, which is why we are once again on the Fantasy Football Hub, my team tool. Of course, I have been using Fantasy Football Hub throughout this video to look at all of the Opta stats as well. So this website is phenomenal. You can get full access right now completely for free. Full access for free, yes, guys. So use the link in the description if you do want to do that. It does help out the channel when you do click on that link, though, as well, guys. So do make sure you are having a look, at least. It is worth having a look. And you get your team rated, and you can start planning for the future. So assuming I do the Havertz to Jimenez move and the Saka to Palmer move, which again is not guaranteed. Some people might argue that Havertz over the next 2 game weeks is better than Vardy for the next 2 game weeks. And, if that is the case, well, maybe I could do it that way. Certainly, the Fantasy Football Hub, my team tool, is actually suggesting that the predicted points for Havertz are ahead of Vardy's over the next couple of game weeks. The penalties, though, are kind of swaying me with Vardy a little bit at the moment, but more to think about. So we'll have 2.8 million in the bank if we make those moves, which is very nice. Moving on to game week 10, I'm not sure if I'd be looking to make a transfer in 10, to be honest. So we would maybe play Smith Rowe instead of Rodgers, although if I'm totally honest, I love the Brentford fixture, but Rodgers is just the guy at the moment, man, isn't he? I mean, there's always the option to maybe just not play Vardy, but against Ipswich, if I kept him for Ipswich, I would have to play him, right? So it's going to be very difficult to bench Smith Rowe in game week 10, but we would just have to do it. Moving on into game week 11, this is where I think I would start making some switcheroonies. Like I say, I'm a bit worried about Robertson's minutes long term, so maybe this is a good opportunity against Aston Villa to switch him to someone like Aït-Nouri, who plays Southampton in that game week, freeing up even more of my budget so we can continue on with some good moves. After this, we could probably move on Vardy. Like, whether it's Havertz or Vardy, I will probably look to remove whatever player is still in my team by game week 11 in this week. There's a few options. Cunha is an option. Strand Larsen is an option. And we also have, I guess we have like Wood, maybe possibly as well. I will keep an eye on things over the next couple of game weeks to decide who my third and final striker is going to be for the foreseeable future. But let's just throw in Larsen at the moment because it does give me a couple of options after this. So assuming we make these transfers in game week 11, get our 2 Wolves players in for the Southampton fixture. The rest of the team looks very, very strong indeed. We probably play Smith Rowe ahead of Rodgers because Rodgers plays Liverpool away. Absolutely fine. No problem there. I mean, I guess the other option is to keep whatever forward I had at that point and maybe move Smith Rowe to Semenyo. But then it just gives me another benching headache, doesn't it? Potentially. I don't know. But yeah, certainly from 11, Semenyo looks really good. So that looks good there. But game week 12 would be where the big changes happen. So I've obviously freed up a load of money in the bank. Now, depending on what forward I go for, I can actually afford at this point to switch Smith Rowe to Saka. Boom. How about that? Yes. Pretty crazy, right? So game week 12, Saka would come in here. I would still have another free transfer to use at this point, I believe, as well. Or would I? Maybe not. But yeah, that would mean that I wouldn't have to play Johnson against Man City. I would have a team with Palmer, Saka, Haaland, Trent, and Gvardiol, and Mbeumo. Like, this is a super strong team, and it's all made possible through going for 2 cheap forwards who are reliable cheap forwards as well, who have been performing. Rodgers, cheap guy, reliable. Johnson, pretty cheap, reliable. Aït-Nouri, cheap, plays for a defence which has improving fixtures and has a great amount of attacking potential as well as with my other defenders. This is what my team could look like in game week 12, and I still have my wild card in my back pocket. Like, this is dreamland, right, guys? This is exactly what you want with your FPL team, to plan something out like this. Now, will everything go exactly to plan? I don't know. I hope they do. I haven't been too bad with injuries so far this season, so I hope that can continue. But really, what we're looking at here is the start of something very, very special with my team. Honestly, I think we've cooked. I really do think we've cooked. And this is pretty much my dream game week 12 team anyway. Maybe the one change is maybe I would think about moving out Gvardiol. Maybe move him out in game week 13 for an Arsenal defender. But honestly, Gvardiol's form right now, it's very difficult to even think about removing him. But that is definitely something we could think about in the future. Of course, we could also keep Smith Rowe and go for Johnson to Saka as well. That also works. It would give me a little bit more budget to play with as well. Maybe even allow me to upgrade one of my bench defenders in the future if I don't want to play Aït-Nouri every single game week, or if I need cover for Gvardiol. There's still a lot of options. I've not got anything set in stone, but there is some clear, nice pathways towards that team that I really want, which is the team with Haaland, Palmer, Saka, and Trentin that still looks strong outside of that. And I think I've accomplished that through my planning. So guys, if you would like to start planning yourself, get the predicted points, see what the underlying stats from players, and get your team rating, and just plan, guys, then do use the link at the top of the description, get your team rating, get access, full access for free for right now, and yeah, I'm sure you guys will definitely be able to improve your FPL game by doing so. But that's it for today, guys. If you did enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe as well, and watch that video. Don't know what video that is for you, but I'm sure it's a very good one. But thank you so much again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.